When you first get up into the cab, our master switch is down here on the bottom, kind of in a bad location, but it is designed so that when you climb up in the cab, your first step is to hit the master switch and then hit your ignition switch. As soon as you hit the ignition switch, it's going to go through a sweep. Let it sweep, and then you're good to start the truck. If you turn the master switch on and the ignition switch on before you get in, by the time you're up in the truck and buckled in, it's going to do its thing and you'll be ready to crank it. All of our master warning switch, one switch to turn on all of the lights. As soon as you push the parking brake in, your white lights, your rotor-ray, and white lights and rotor-ray will be active. Q brake or the Q siren is active whenever the master warning switch is, so you can stomp the pedal and it's not going to do anything until that point. Your tire change, you have a small switch that you have to push down and then you can turn them on. It's just a little safety. Come down, bring them up. The horn siren switch, when it's in horn, it's going to do the honk honk DOT horn. When it's in siren and your actual siren is in manual, you can tap it and scroll through each one of them. If you tap it twice, you'll be able to turn it back off. The high idle control, you see right now the switch is off and the light's on. It means that if you look at your load manager, your light's going to be down a little bit, or our voltage has dropped. It's calling out for high idle, so if we crank the truck now, it would actually ramp it up. I didn't go over it with these other guys, but I would say with the DPF and the DEF system that it's got in it, I would recommend if you're running a lot of calls, keep the high idle turned on. That way your engine RPMs are up. Don't just park the truck and leave it sitting. If you run a lot of medical calls or whatnot, turn the high idle on before you get out of the cab. If you're pumping, I wouldn't worry about it. Down here on the bottom, you've got a bright and a dim switch. You can dim all the dash lights, cluster lights. Our windshield wipers, kind of a different switch. You push it in to turn them on, and then if you want to speed them up, lift it up, slow them down, push it down, and then push it straight in again to turn them off. Headlights, you have to turn them on. They don't come on automatically, so that will pretty much stay on. Our engine brake, you have an on-off to completely turn the system on or off, and then you have a high, medium, and low button. This button has a light on it, so every time you let off on the Jake brake and the Jake is active, the green light's going to light up along with your tail light, your brake lights. Got a mud and snow switch if you need it for the limited slip. Let's see. Next over here is our mirror switch. If you need heat for your mirrors, you can turn that on. The upper joystick is for the driver's side, left or for the upper portion of it, left or right. The bottom switch is for the lower convex, left or right. You got your traffic advisor siren and then our pump shift switch. The pump shift operates, you just pull straight out on it and then move it all the way up, and that puts it into road. The center position is neutral in case you ever had to manually override the pump or do anything along those lines. When you're done with it, just pull straight out on it and drop it back down. You'll have to put it in road and then push drive. It'll put it in fourth gear for you automatically. All the switches along the bottom, these control all your scene lights. Your first one is the spotlight and the brow light. The second one is the outer two. It just gets brighter as you go. And the third one is the whole bar. And then you've got left, right, and rear scene lights. So as far as those of you driving it, this one up here you'll kind of really want to watch. This is your DEF indicator along with your fuel right underneath it. As long as it's all green, you're good. When it gets down to where it's pretty low, quarter of a tank or so, it's going to start flashing amber. It'll eventually start flashing red if you don't fill it up. If it flashes red, you could get derated down to about 45 miles an hour. So it won't affect your pumping, but it'll affect your driving. On this side of it, it's got a diagnostics and a lot of information through this screen. The biggest thing you need to know is if you see a check engine or check message center light pop up here, you want to look down here at the LCD screen. It's going to tell you exactly what's going on with the truck. If it has a check engine or stop engine or an MIL light, you can actually, when you're parked, scroll through it until you get to diagnostics and hit the button that's going to tell you what failures it's got, and then we can further diagnose it from there. Oops. Turn signals, headlights, tilt steering. It does telescope. We've got a power seat on this side. You'll have to play with it to learn the adjustments. It's, I believe, 8 ways that you can adjust it. And of course, you got power windows I keep getting on. Any questions on any of that stuff? Short of being able to drive it. AC controls up front. You've got blue and red. In the back, it's just red. It just goes from small to big. And colder on the small side, hot on the higher side. Or if you want to turn the air conditioner on, it's the top switch. The defrost is the lower switch. But everybody make sure you keep the windshield area clear. Don't put coats and gloves and hats and stuff like that up here, because all of our defrost vents are along the bottom. We do blow straight up, so there's not a lot of issue with condensation.
Does it have a DEF override or a DEF force on it?
It does. I haven't gone over that, and I can go over it a little bit more in depth. Down here at the kick panel, underneath the master switch, if you have to do a manual regen, there's a light that'll come on. It'll constantly stay on. At that point, you can open the cover down here. The little cover comes off. The first switch is your inhibit switch. If you actually hit that now, it's got, here's what I was saying a second ago, it's telling you check message center, and it's got a warning down here at the bottom that says regen inhibit switch active. So you've also got an indicator here that shows the puff of smoke with a line through it, so it's not going to let it regen. The next switch over is your actual regen switch. So if the lights are on, the puff of smoke here, and it's calling out a regen, says it's manual regen needed or manual regen required. Once you get back, pull the parking brake, hold the switch up 5 to 10 seconds, it'll ramp up. It's not going to do a bit of anything right now until it actually calls it out. So you can see the puff of smoke that's coming up here. This is what it's going to look like when it's actually calling for it. The top one is your high exhaust system temperature, and then the bottom one is that it needs a regen, or that it's going through the process. All the connections for the VDR and Tattletale box are down there too. You can see our seatbelt monitor. You're in position 1. It's kind of, it's a 8-man cab, so 7 and 8 are in the, it's an 8-man cab, so 7 and 8 are the 2 rear positions, and then it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. The outer positions aren't going to show up, but as soon as you start buckling up, those numbers will go away until everybody's buckled up, and then it'll turn green. So if you were to push the parking brake in, put it in drive, it'll record the event that somebody's not buckled in at this point. So it's not, it'll sit there and chirp at you and just kind of alarm until everybody's buckled. Door jar indicator is above, it's red. If you push the parking brake in now, it will be flashing. All right. And then the truck is kind of designed to keep you out from underneath the cab. You don't have to raise it up every day to check fluids. The biggest thing in here is your transmission. Everything else is checked out front. The transmission, if you were to just walk in the door and the truck being cold, you wouldn't be able to get it to do anything. You'll need to take it out, drive around the block, get it warmed up, then you can push the up and down arrows. It's telling us transmission oil level is okay. If it was low or high, it'll tell you how many quarts that you actually need to add back to it. Next one is the oil life. It'll continuously count down until it's time to change it. Your filters are okay. Transmission health is okay, and it's got a diagnostic section in here too. So if you ever see a check transmission along with a wrench here, you can scroll through the screen and get the diagnostic codes out of it. That's about all. Only other one here is the auto lube. If this light is actually on, you'll need to check the system, probably refill it. That's about all I've got. Anybody else? Questions from anybody?
2 separate sirens.
What's that?
How does the siren control work?
Okay. I'm gonna honk the horn. What's yours? Horn. That's just DOT horn. When it's on, I think it's on manual or radio. takes it right, sitting in front of it. Hit it twice, you'll be able to get it to turn off. I can't. I did it a second ago. Can't hit it now. The rest of it is all. You can do it manually if you want to turn them on.
The box above that is
That's your traffic advisor on the back. Right now it's in low. You can go to high with it. It's on flash, so it's just kind of doing a random. Next one up, I believe, is center out, and then you got left and right.
okay.
What else we got? Camera, okay. Camera system, you can turn it on manually like you just did if you want to see what's behind you, or as soon as you throw it into reverse, it's going to kick it on for you automatically. Going around the truck, you got 4 reels, you got 200 feet on each of them.
Yeah, we're gonna, it's just there to be, it's just placed there.
They pulled it out earlier, I left in their second.
It's on order.
Hoses in here for your, you got a foam refill system. The hose is stored in the front compartment. So if you want to use this, you should flush it before you put the cap back on.
How do you flush it?
Turn the system to flush.
Yep.
Hook this hose up. Take a 5-gallon bucket of clear water. You can use, there's a drain down here. You can actually, they say to put another bucket up underneath it to catch the water.
Okay.
But
Just suck water and let it flush on the ground.
lock it on. Once it's locked on, dip it down into your bucket. If you're going to fill it, you need to be on refill.
Right.
Put it in the bucket, push the button one time. When it's green, it's solid green. The tank is full, it's not going to let you do anything. If it's flashing, the level's dropped enough that it can actually fill. So this is auto. If the bucket's got fluid in it and you push it, it's going to suck as much as it needs till it fills up. As long as it's got fluid in the bucket, if it needs it, it'll start pulling it up. It'll shut itself off when it gets full. It'll start itself again. If it pumps for more than 20 seconds without having any fluid move through it, it'll shut itself down. This is a safety. But if the bucket gets empty, kind of pay attention to it, watch it, don't let it go empty. You can burn up the little seals that are in there. It's not a very powerful system.
So if we fill it up and to flush it, turn it to flush, open the valve down there, 5 gallons of water, flush them,
just turn it to flush.
and turn that valve on the bottom.
And that's going to run out the bottom of it.
Okay.
You can
You should
you
do it every
either
time
top
you
it off, or if
fill
you
it
want to suck a little bit extra out of your bucket and kind of clean out the bucket, you can hit the manual button there. And it is, you see where it's spitting out the bottom down there? That's what's left in the lines. So manually drain your bucket and then you can get the rest of it out of it. It's going to suck it down to about that far using the auto so it doesn't overdo it.
That just flushes to the back, more or less, right?
Yes. You have a remote control deck gun. To raise it, get it ready to operate, push the up button. So do we come up? Yep. So that gun's up. At this point, you can go left, right, raise it and lower it. You want to take it back down. If you're done with it, you've got a park button. Just punch the park button, hold it down, and it's going to go through a series of motions there. It takes a little while to park it because it wants to move itself around. It's got to raise itself up, drain the water out of it, and then put it back in the bed.
Is that automatically on?
What's that?
Does it have to fill it up?
It is on all the time. Okay. You got your fog and straight stream, so you can control the nozzle also. You got the same control here as you do at the top, and then the knobs that are on the monitor, you can actually turn those and you can run it manually. Continuing on around, you've got our door light switches are magnetic. They do have a shield over them, so just kind of keep them clear and watch them. You can see as they get close to the bottom of the door. they'll actually trigger. So as you're loading stuff in and out of the compartment, just kind of watch them. Biggest thing I've seen with the lights is watch what you put in front of the doors and kind of watch as you're dragging stuff out. These have a plastic lens on them and you crack them pretty easy. I've got this one already lined up, some tool boards. Any of the doors, when you push the parking brake in, if you got a red light flashing on the dash, any of the body doors, your ladder compartment doors, your coffin compartments, and your hose bed cover are all tied into that system. On the swing doors, we use proximity switches instead of magnet switches. As long as it's in contact with metal, it'll turn itself on and off. Hard suction mirror on the top, and then you've got another section on this side. This side, you got another 200-foot cord reel with a junction box. Rewind button on the side. On your pump panel, you've got a scene light switch here and extra air horn if you needed it from this side. When you're ready to check fluids out the front, pop the 2 latches on the grill. You got a sight glass for your coolant. As long as it's red, you can see coolant level inside of it. You're good. There's power steering, just pull straight up on it. It doesn't twist off, just pull it. It's got a rubber plug. Engine oil is filled here. Here's your dipstick for the oil, and then you've got your antifreeze. Rotor raise, there's no belts or anything to check on that. If you have to fill the antifreeze, pop this little cover off and the cap is right behind it. We'll go, come on around this way. Data plates, if you're doing any kind of maintenance and stuff, you've got all of your fluid levels. You got jumper studs, power and ground here, if you had to jump the batteries off, or if you jump another car or something. Shoreline indicators. I didn't go over it a lot on the inside with everybody, but you do have airbags in the cab. So your steering wheel has an airbag in it. You've got side curtain airbags here. These are not handles. Don't grab a hold of them. The seats have pre-tensioners in them. It's an explosive charge that's sitting at the base of the seat. So if it senses a rollover and it knows that it's going over, that charge blows and it pulls you back into the seat. You want to make sure that that's clear. You can see it. If you want to look out, there's just a little tube on the back of the seat. Try to keep it free of stuff. It's not knocked off. You kind of see it sitting on the back of this seat. It's got a cable on top of it, or a cable that'll actually pull the seat belt down. Each one of those have it. That's kind of the reason they don't have flip-up seats in it, is because you have the return system. We'll shut the door here. Raise the cab up. The cab lift is located behind the panel. Yeah. Already did it, huh? The cab will go up a lot quicker when it comes down.
Here's your cup of water.
Oh yeah, cup. Oh well. Thanks, Steve.
This is not difficult.
Yeah.
You don't have to have this.
When you raise the cab up, raise it up enough for the block to drop. Don't bring the cab back down on top of it. Over time, just bring it up to where it's about 1/4 inch off the top of the cylinder. Don't set it back down on it. Over time, it's going to bust the seals on the top of the cylinder and So that's pretty expensive repair there. When you do raise the cab and you want to check it, all of these little lines you've got for your grease system, just kind of visually inspect it, make sure you don't have grease pouring out any of the copper caps. Just kind of follow the lines down and look where they're connected, make sure you don't have excess grease coming out. Make sure nothing's unplugged in. Your DEF fluid tank inside the back door, you actually have an access door to be able to fill it. Batteries, just kind of open the cover. You got a sight glass on each one of the batteries. Check them, make sure they're green, everything's good with those. Wiggle your connections, check them, make sure that's good. One other place underneath the cab up there in the front where those jumper studs are, you have your master switch feeds off of that, so just kind of every now and then check it, make sure those connections are good. That's pretty much everything under here. On the other side of it, we can kind of all walk around there. Come May or so, whenever you're ready for the air conditioner, tell me the air conditioner doesn't work before you raise the cab. There's two valves sitting right down here underneath the turbo, and don't reach in there right now because it's probably pretty hot. The two valves are open right now for the heat. During the summertime or whenever you want to use the air conditioner, raise the cab up, close both of those valves, and it'll turn the heat off to the system inside. If you don't do it, the air conditioner will run, but it's not going to be very effective.
Is that the same with our rescue engine 14?
Correct.
Because we noticed it's been a little warm.
Yeah. Last time I had an air conditioner problem over there, it was the heat valve turned on. So, same thing with the Vogel system on this side. You've got grease lines running back up and down both sides. Your cab pivots up front, you can see them through the bumper. Just kind of watch those little hoses. Visually inspect your belts and fan and stuff like that. There's your cab.
If anybody noticed, Lieutenant Holtree disconnected the front pre-connect. We're going to tilt the cab so we won't bend it. So be aware of that. Raise your cab, twist that pre-connect.
There's a bumper line. All the way up front underneath the bumper, you've got a low point drain there. Got this drain where the bin, getting all the out of the low section. Oh, you have to open manually open those up if you want to drain that whole pipe.
Is that filling with water when we're pumping, or is there a valve isolating that?
It has nothing to do other than to drain the suction. So,
But when we just run off pump water, water's not flowing back into that tube at all, right? So like we look up,
just because the valve is on this end of it. So,
good.
if you want to drain that portion of it, if it's going to be sitting, it might freeze or whatever. Just open those valves up and let them drain out. All right. Visually inspect your oil levels in here. It's got a ring around it. You can actually see the level. Both of the front ones have it.
What about
You
50%?
can see the right in there. They're even on both sides, and there's a ring around it that tells you where the level needs to be, so it's above it, and we're good.
Keep it. I don't think we filmed. Did we film?
Right there.
Just wheelbarrow grease? Or?
No,
See this?
What?
You're wrong.
Was it 90? Not probably 90, 140, I
Doesn't say on it, but we'll find out. It's on, probably on the door over there.
think. It's an oil path, it's not like a steel bearing on the front end of the pump. It's actually an oil path, but you just put it in here.
You can let the cab back down. Transmission fluid fill. Transmission fluid fill. The fill is on the dipstick on the side over here. On that side, just a little small dipstick. It's got a dipstick, you could check it there if you wanted to, but I prefer to go through the cab just because it's a whole lot more accurate. Lower the cab now. Pull back on it enough to get it past the cylinder. And let it drop. It's coming out a lot slower than what it did going up. It's got velocity fuses in it, so if one of the hydraulic lines was to burst, it's going to close the pressure off, and that way the cab won't come down.
Don't crush your can. See that boundary? It won't get crushed.
I'm sure somebody's gonna come here and cut the line while you're under there.
My life insurance.
Just watch your pin nut when the cab does come all the way back down. The red light in here will go off, and then you know it's good to go.
Is it locked in here or?
It's been pretty quiet. Hold it till the light goes out, you're good.
Light goes out, you're good.
Cool. That's it.
Did you say the
All right. First thing are the switches. Handle light switch, when it's on, if this light is not on, it's not a problem. When the pump is engaged, the light will come on. You'll also have a throttle ready or a green light here. It matches the pump engaged light in the cab. So as long as that's on, this light's on, you should be good to go. Your pump does have mechanical seals, so you know what a mechanical seal, the problem with it. Overheating is a big problem with these, so all the companies guarantee their seals for 10 years, but they don't guarantee them against overheating and operator failure. So we do have a engine cooling and pump cooling valves down here at the bottom. My suggestion again is just to leave them open. It doesn't hurt, keeps the engine cool, keeps the pump cool. That little pump cooler is a 3/8 inch line going to the shaft of the pump. It's not able to capably cool it. We recommend keep the tank, if you're sitting at idle and you're going to be there for a minute, you're not flowing any water, keep your tank pump open, keep your tank filled, recirculate valve cracked. If the steamer's cold and cool, you've got cool water circulating through it, your seals are going to be fine. Protocol on your part, whether you leave the pump wet or dry. A lot more departments nowadays are actually draining their pumps because of the mechanical seals. It is a full-body cast iron pump, so it will rust and you will see red water come out of it. We've tried to take care of it. You've got anodes in the system. There's 2 anodes, one on the intake and one on the discharge side. You've also got the screens are anodes, so a year from now, 2 years from now, when you pull this off of here, you might see a garbled up mess of screens sitting there. It's normal for it to do it. It's just degrading because it's zinc. It's taking care of a lot of the corrosion inside the pumps, but it still happens. So if you see a lot of rusty water, if you've got dirty water in the county, your hydrants are bad, or you're doing a lot of drafting, I would just suggest kind of trying to keep the pump dry. Nothing more than pulling the drain, letting it drain out. It doesn't take but just a second to get water back on it. You've got automatic primers. It's just a split second and you've got water back in it. So the risk of having seals blow out versus having to refill the pump is kind of nominal.
The anodes, something that are scheduled to be replaced every,
The seals,
well, the anodes in there you said are.
the anodes, yeah,
absorbing.
you can pull these off and you'll be able to see them. They're about yay big, probably 2 inches long, and one's right inside the port here. You can look inside the steamer and you can see it. When it gets down about the size of your pinky finger and it's just nothing there.
And that's time to do it. All right.
Let's see. All of the intakes, they're electric valves. You can either open,
Okay.
close. Whatever you do here is mirrored. The auxiliary is the front, and then I can change this one. That's for the passenger side, and then your rear. I'll change the wording on. I can't change. I don't have a wording for a front intake, but I have a passenger side or master intake. So you have presets. Preset 1 is 0. If you want to go 50%, you can put it on 2. If you want to go all the way, just hit the preset button until it lights up P3. And then hit go to, and it's going to open it automatically for you. We'll go back to 0, hit the preset. Again, you can do it manually if you don't want to use the presets. Those same valve controllers are used for individual valves, so that's why you've got the presets on it. You can feather the valves or however you want to do that. You've got air primers, front and rear. They just work. You don't have the oil, you don't have motors, you don't have anything to have to deal with mechanically on that. The biggest thing that we ask is if you've pumped and you've used the primers, when you get the pump completely shut down, blow the air, blow the water back out of them. That way it prevents freezing. If you've got dirty water in it, it won't clog the little venturi and all that in there. One neat thing about having the extra primers on it, if say you're pumping out off of a draft or you're fixing to pump out of a tank, you want to get your suction, you can go ahead and when I have the drains closed, you can pull a prime on it, and then once you get your prime and get vacuum pressure on the system, at that point you can open that valve and it'll suck that water right up in there for you. Same thing on the rear. This has an automatic primer on it. You can leave it in auto prime, but just you'll hear as soon as you put the pump into gear, you'll hear it spitting a little bit of air trying to get water onto it. Or again, same thing with these, just let a little bit of air through it, drain the water out of it. You can use it or not, it's auto if you need it. Auto comes in handy, especially when you're drafting, because it's just going to sit there and run until it gets water. Let's see. Again, you got scene light switches all over the truck. Water level gauges and foam level gauges, they should be in corresponding with that. This one's a little bit sensitive apparently. They'll change colors, so 3/4 should be blue, and they'll go up from there. Where's Keith at?
Keith?
Watch this one for me. It may need to be recalibrated.
Yes, it does. It does.
Okay.
We filled it up and it did. It's full.
Okay. It's easy enough to do. The camera system, you've got 4 cameras. This system is separate from what's in the cab. You've got a camera select, so you got the one on the monitor, you've got one in the front, the rear bumper, front bumper, and then on the passenger side, so you should be able to see your dump tanks. As you get started using them, you may need to adjust them out a little bit more to get the best vision. You can do split screen, and you can do all 4 of them if you want to see them at the same time. All right, somebody wants to jump up there and put it in the pump for me. Next thing, before it gets too noisy, the foam check valve, that's the one thing that you really need to remember on this after you take it out of pump. Put any pressure on it. Pull that up, drain the pressure off the system, bleed the pressure out of it, let that water come out, and then you can close it again.
You want to drain that foam check every time you pump, whether you use foam or not?
Overheat the pump, it's got an alarm. You can test it as long as it beeps, it'll light up and start yelling at you. Alright. I have to move in a little bit closer for you. Alright, if you're gonna pump, this governor always starts up in PSI mode. That's all the electronics. Got a preset. Start it up. If you want to pull a cross link, if the cross link's on the ground, you preset at 100 PSI. It's always going to go right up there. Once you get flow established, if you want some more pressure on it, turn it up, turn it down. You want to bring another line up, if you're flowing at 100 PSI there and you want to flow another line at 75, just gauge the line back. Whatever this is flowing at, it's at 100. Any line that you open, it's going to compensate for it. Ramp the engine up, do what it needs to do to get all these to 100. So if you set your pressure at 200 PSI, you'll have to gauge something back here. You can change the preset if you want to. Just hold the preset down. get to 125 or wherever you want to go with it. Let go of it. Next time you hit it, it's going to go right up to 70 pounds. Idle button, you don't have to throttle it down or anything. Just hit the button to stop it if you need to. It starts up in pressure mode, but you can't switch it over to RPM. RPM mode takes that electronic part out of it, so it's all back to manual. It takes the safety out of the system too, so you don't want to use it other than for drafting or whenever you're doing a pump test. You want to switch it over, just start it up in RPM mode. It has a preset, set at 1200. Change the preset RPMs. Just like you did on the pressure. If you're coming off of a draft tank and you want to set up, go ahead and get it. Get your water flow established. As soon as it's flowing, when everything is good, put the preset button down and put it back over. A few conditions that it'll do. Run out of water. It's asking for you. There's a problem with the pump. That's one condition. If it's asking for the operator, it's got just enough water to try to maintain it. But you can hear the truck at that point. It's starting to cavitate, it's starting to come apart. So it's asking for you. Nothing to do but hit the idle button. In a low water situation, somebody's driven over your hose and you're running out of water in your tanks. It's still got enough water going that it's trying to maintain it. It may start hunting. So it kind of lifts the truck and it goes, it's got enough water back in it. If I get water back within 2 minutes, it's going to go right back to the pressure that you had it at. You don't have to do anything to it. If I run completely out of water, of course you got the alarm. It's going to shut itself down. If I get water back to it, it'll go right back to where you were at. By saying with the safety of having it in PSI mode, that's what it's trying to tell you: low water, no water, and it's asking for the operator. It's sensing all those. It's sensing the water conditions. Still got to be able to understand what the truck is doing. So where it was out of water and calling for the operator, where it starts cavitating and starts ramping up, you need to be able to understand there's a problem with it. At that point, if you don't know what the correction is, just hit the idle button, shut it down till you figure it out. Our foam system, got a track when it's turned on here. Turn the system on. These lines are going to flow foam. It's an injection system. When it's flashing, it's flowing foam. You want to select the amount of foam that you're injecting, bring it over to this, the lights under percent, raise it up and go all the way up to 6%. This will tell you how much foam you flowed, how many gallons of foam you've actually used. The amount of water you've actually flowed through those discharges. This is your total flow with foam and water. So, if you need to know all that. Otherwise, just turn the system on and off.
start flowing water, it's gonna go out.
Yes.
I didn't see an
Once it's
activation.
turned on.
Yeah, okay.
Once it's turned on, typically you want to open your valve or do something, but it doesn't matter. Once it's on, once it senses water flow, it'll start flashing and then it'll start injecting. Exactly. We're on a 0.5% of foam right now, so as you want to inject more foam, bring it over to where the light's under the percentage, bump it up or bump it down. It's either all or all. And coming out of any of these that have foam on it, because it is an injection, it's going into a manifold. It's common with all those. 20 gallon. When you're finished with the foam system, turn it back off. Whatever valve you use or whatever line you use, flush it for a minute or so till you get good clear water out of it, and you're good to shut it down.